questions that people have about building a log home, some of the really important questions are how you seal between your logs and how to make sure your log home is going to be and continue to be over a long time to be airtight and energy efficient. So those are some of the things that we want to talk about here, about the differences between the products that go between the logs to seal them. We want to talk about how we're going to caulk the exterior of the joint to make sure that we can keep it sealed. And then we also want to give you some practical advice on the best way to caulk your house and some tips on the best ways to do it.
For today's podcast, we have our very first guest outside of GLH employees, which is very exciting for us. We've got Paul here with Sashco. Paul, hi.
Golly, I didn't know I was the first. Probably the last after listening to you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Gastineau.
I'm Lacey Schmidt.
And I'm Paul Peebles.
Welcome to the Acorn Leaf Podcast. Hello, Paul Peebles. It's so great to have you here today.
Hi, Lenny G. It's nice to be here.
Paul has been in the log home industry since 1994, and he works for a company by the name of Sashco. And Sashco provides a lot of products in this industry. So first off, I just want to talk about Sashco to get a history from them, Paul, and what all they do. Well,
you'd think that since the name is Sashco that we'd have something to do with windows. And in fact, they did start manufacturing aluminum windows in 1936. They later moved on. Tragically, the owner of the company was killed in a plane accident when his son was still in college. Les Birch was in college.
Oh, wow.
And Mr. Birch's wife, and then later on his son Les, took over the company, and the family worked hard to keep it afloat for many years. And when Les's sister married a guy named Wayne Summons, who was a chemist, they got into the caulking business. They made this elastic caulking to install their windows with.
Interesting.
And sooner or later, the windows went away, and the sealant business started with Sashco. So it's been continuously owned by a single family since 1936. I started working for Les in 94, Les Birch, and then later on I left for a period of time, went to work for a customer, and came back, and now I work for his kids. And they're all really smart people. It's a really cool company. It's based on, believe it or not, it sounds corny nowadays, but truth, trust, care, forgiveness, and respect. And, if you can't get along with that, if you don't agree with those type things, then you're just not really...
Shouldn't be in business.
Shouldn't be in business, and wouldn't be one of our customers either. It's just a neat way to go to work every day and think that the people that you work with, we like each other. We like each other a whole lot. And of course, start off without truth, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a fun 30 years. 31 is this year.
Maybe that's why we all get along so well.
Yeah, we're all old.
We're all old, and we all have the same values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear a lot about values, and you hear a lot about culture and things like that. And you hear them from some really cool people, like Warren Buffett says things like, don't do business with people that aren't honest because they'll beat you every time. You can't win because they're good at it. And that's just it's a really true thing. But we really appreciate Gastineau's business over the years. It's one of the first things. When I first started, you threw Sashco out and started buying from somebody else, didn't you?
Before that we had, yeah, and you talked us into coming back.
Well,
we started buying Sashco products, I think 1978. And then we were just buying the caulking. Is all we were buying.
Yeah.
But we've been doing business together that long. We left, like I said, for a few years, and within the company that we'd gone with had all kinds of quality issues, and we had, so then we went back to Sashco, and it's been great ever since.
That was a great feather in my cap. I'd been with the company 8 months and lost my largest customer. Thank you very much.
It wasn't your fault.
No, it wasn't my fault, but it's still,
Yeah.
But it has been. We've done a lot of things together over the years, and you guys really take some pains with the way you build your log houses. In fact, I call it overkill sometimes, but there's no such thing as overkill when you're trying to, build a house to protect the family and the kids and the pets and
Last
everybody
for
else.
generations,
And
right.
Generations. That's why I guess sons and daughters come back or grandkids and come back, and of course daughters come into the business, and hopefully my son's going to enter this business one day. We'll see. But you guys use a really unique product that we make for you too, called Log Bond. That's the darndest stuff. I mean, don't get it on you because it ain't coming off.
Yeah.
It's a product that we've been making for many years, and they put this on the tongues and grooves of the logs inside there. But at Gastineau, that would do it. That'd be enough. But then they do the extra mile, and they listen to us, and they've developed a caulk well inside their logs that goes all the way through every log. There's a little spot in there where they put a piece of thing called backer-rod. And that backer-rod, then they apply caulk over the top, another coat of caulk. Beside what's already inside the log, then they put another bead of caulking between the two logs that goes over this backer-rod. And this channel that they designed into the logs is not very visible from the outside. It's kind of tucked up underneath there. But the caulking that they put on the outside is color coordinated with the logs, and the stain goes over it. You can't hardly see it, but that backer-rod provides what they call two-point adhesion. Now, it's hard to explain that when you can't see something.
Oh,
but
yeah. I have to explain two-point adhesion to people about 3,000 times.
I've tried it. I've got a way to do it. So take a rubber band and grab it between your hands when your hands or fingers when they're real close together, and pull it and see how far it goes. Now grab that rubber band, have about an inch of slack between it, and then pull it and see how far that rubber band goes. It makes sense because it's only bonded to the top log and the bottom log, and then that backer-rod stuff that you don't really have to worry about what it's made out of, but it allows that whole body of caulking to move, so we get like 100% elongation on that.
Yeah, I always tell people that the only purpose of backer-rod is to be slick.
Yeah, it's slick.
Yeah, slick.
Like me.
Just be slick and so caulk won't stick to it. That's the two-point adhesion. Is if it adheres at the top and the bottom, then it can stretch and perform the way that it's supposed to. But if it sticks to the back, it's guaranteed to fail.
That's right. It'll fail. It'll fail every time.
Yeah.
But I seem to remember one particular point in time when I had kind of gone off astray. I was an Energy Star rater, and I came and did one of your houses. And so what that amounts to is I was able to give a house a rating just like a water heater would be, the Energy Star label that people are used to seeing nowadays. And I think that house of yours had something like 0.9 air changes an hour or something like that. So the blower door that we use sucks the air out of the house, and it simulates a 25-mile-an-hour wind coming or hitting the house from all four directions at once, which means you're in a tornado. But that was one of the best houses I'd ever tested because all the logs are sealed. And in my training, of course, we sell caulk, but in my training, the best seal is the seal that you can see from the outside. Now, why would that be? Well, because you could see it, and you can inspect it, and you can repair it, and if you know it's wrong. And you guys have taken it even further with the log gap caps and things around windows and doors. So there's always places that you can see on your house that are vulnerable, that you can know that they're not.
Yeah, I try to explain to people that they think that because you can see the joints of a log home, that a log wall has a lot more opportunity for air infiltration because you can see these joints. And actually, they have less chance because with a frame construction, you've got so many more joints where all your studs are stacked up on top of next to each other. And then they're just covered up with drywall. They're not caulked. They're not sealed. They're just covered up drywall. They're covered up the exterior. But with a log house, if you actually counted up the linear footage of rows, you actually have less chance for air infiltration. But then you can also get to it. You can get to it on the inside and the outside, so you can seal it.
That's the major difference. When stick construction with drywall and sheathing and all this other layers of stuff, it leaks, you don't know where it leaks. I mean, how many people you got to change the carpet in your house, and you pull the carpet up, or you pull all the furniture out, and you look and you pull the carpet up. And why is the carpet brown around the edges where it's an outside wall? That's because there was air leaking under that wall. And it's not because you couldn't get the vacuum cleaner in there in your so whoever is lazy. It's because there's air coming under that wall, and the carpet is filtering it out so it turns brown. And if you've ever done a remodel, you pull the drywall off, and you see that pink insulation is now brown. It's filtering air out because there was air leaks in those homes. And I'm not saying anything bad about stick-built construction because it can be done well. That's fine. All right, burn them all. Anyway. But with logs, you can see, inspect, and repair, and that's the cool thing about it. And it's easier to protect your family and your investment from the elements.
And we'll be right back. I know. We get it. You've been sitting there, driving in your car, maybe you're running on a jog on a beautiful morning, listening to this podcast and thinking about building your log home. So we made it easy for you. Start your journey with us here at Gaston Log Homes. Family owned, women led, and proudly crafting oak log homes since 1977. As the largest oak log home manufacturer in America, we're here to help bring your dream, big or small, to life. You can call our office at 573-896-5122 or swing by the National Mata Home Center here in Kingdom City, Missouri, or even visit us online at oakloghome.com to get started. Because your dreams never look so good. While you're listening to this podcast, did you find yourself loving or imagining the smell of sawdust or the thrill of closing a deal? Well, good, because we're hiring. From the mill to sales to design to even shipping, there's a place for you at Gaston Log Homes. You can apply today at oakloghome.com/careers. If you've been enjoying the Acorn Leaf Podcast, do us a quick favor. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more folks who love log home living find us and join the conversation, which is such an awesome community. And hey, if you love what we do here at Gaston Log Homes, head over to Google and leave us a review there as well. It means the world to us and keeps the dream growing. Thanks for listening and for being part of the Gaston family. Back to the show.
I don't think people think about that, right? That's not something that they think about because with traditional stick frame construction, which is what majority of the world lives in, you aren't able to do that. So whether, knowing or not that air is flowing back and forth, you can't do anything about it really anyway, unless you're tearing that house apart.
True.
So it's not even like something that is thought about that, hey, wait a minute, I can't actually fix this, with a log construction. So it's not even kind of in front of mind.
Yeah, the real difference between log and stick-built construction is there is movement in logs. Mm-hmm. But that's why Sashco's here. All of our products are high-performance products. They're designed to stretch further than the materials, the cheaper products that you would use that you buy at a big box store and caulk a piece of 1x with because it doesn't move very much.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really impressed me about Sashco is all the testing that they've done on log structures, and it's really impressive that they know the difference. Even things like how the difference in how the wood hits a round log versus a flat wall and all this. They've really spent a lot of money and effort in figuring it out.
Yeah, truly. I mean, if you come to the facility out there, you'll see that, of course, the production area and the shipping area is the two biggest areas, but the lab is also one of the largest areas in the building, and it's staffed by some really smart, cool people. That's where those are the people that I get to deal with. When I find something in the field that kind of baffles me a little bit, I just call them to make sure that what I think I see is why it happens, and they can explain to you on a molecular level, which goes way over my head.
Yeah.
But it sounds good when I dribble it back to somebody.
Going back a little bit, you were talking about the log bond that we put between our logs, and one of the reasons we use a log bond is because it's so adhesive. And literally you set your logs down, and before it's screwed down or anything, if you want to pick that log back up 15 to 30 seconds later, you're going to take a crowbar and pry it apart. It's really adhesive.
It's tough stuff. It's very adhesive. It holds like nothing. That's why they call it log bond, because once it's on there, it's bonded.
A lot of people use foam gaskets and butyl gaskets between their logs. And the reason that we don't use those is that they don't stick to wet logs. So the builder gets on the job site and he's and they've had a heavy dew or it's rained the night before and the logs are wet. Well, he's not going to stop working. And, so they'll put the foam gaskets, the butyl gaskets in there and then they roll off the tongue or they don't seal. And that's one of the things I really like about the log bond.
Well, yeah, and it's really difficult. If you typically, those rolls of tape come in a roll and you roll it out on the tongue that's on the bottom log, and then you have to place that top log
on
very
top,
precisely on top.
Perfectly,
And
right.
if you don't get it right, then you have to
Scoot it.
Scoot it. And guess what happens when you scoot it?
You tear it.
It tears.
Yeah, which is what we discovered in '94. The builders are stacking the logs, and you can't set the log down perfectly every time, and so you got to move it, and then they push it, and it tears.
It only takes a little bitty nudge to tear that gasket. And of course, the hard thing is we don't really know what it looks like inside there 20 years later.
Right. And that's why to me, it's just common sense. The one place you don't cut corners in your log home is what you put between your logs. And that foam gasket is cheap, and
it is.
And as you know, log bond is not cheap.
No, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap.
Well, you have to, support me in the manner to which I'm accustomed.
And we've been doing that for a long time.
Quite a while. And I'm very grateful.
But that's why I don't want to say I don't care what it costs because they may go back and increase our price, but I don't, it's to that critical. You can't ever replace that. You do not want to skimp there. And then what you're talking about, our caulk channel that we designed into the house, and how that happened was back in '94 when we were redesigning our log profile based on everything we'd learned from all the research we had done. We went to Sashco and we said, hey, how do we make sure that our caulk does not fail? And they said, oh, that's simple. All you do is cut a caulk channel into the profile of your log. Mm-hmm. And then you use the backer rod and you caulk it. And if you do that, we'll give you a lifetime warranty on the caulking. And so we're the only company that I know of that has that. And so it's it just makes sense. If you're going to do it right.
Absolutely. And only do it once.
Yeah, do it once and do it right.
Do it once, do it right.
Yeah.
And the only thing you really have to be careful of course, when you do all this stuff is make sure that and this is true of any job site, keep it clean. Mm-hmm. Caulk sticks to dirt pretty well. And if you got dirty logs or dirty places that you're putting it, it has to be clean and dry. Or it doesn't have to be dry with the log bond, with the caulking it really has to be, because it is a water-based product. So I don't want you to think that you can put it on in the driving rain or when it's cold outside. The caulking is a little bit more sensitive than the log bond. Yeah, but once you've got the log bond in there, you're pretty much set. But and the rest of it, and I don't want to say the other one is secondary, but they're both important. So do it all and do it right, and you'll have a log house that you can be proud of and live in for.
Yeah. Well, and you don't know, that way that the sealants that are in between the logs are going to last as long as your house is going to last. That they're not going to rot out or whatever. This is it's an excellent product. We laugh around here. We say if duct tape or log bond won't fix it, then it's broke.
That's true.
It's just about as indispensable as duct tape.
It's like liquid duct tape.
Yeah.
Maybe even better.
We have guys. It's funny some of the different things we found that the guys use log bond to fix.
Well, in the caulking, the log builder, I went on worked on a job site one time with another company, and the guy that was there said, that log builder stuff, that's the best caulk they ever made. I said, I'm glad you like it. And I started carrying along. He said, wait a minute, I don't think you quite understand what I'm talking about. That's the best stuff ever made. And I said, I'm glad you like it. He said, you see that trailer over there? That I used to have to pump that tire up every day before I left to go to work and every day before I go home. He said, about 2 years ago, I put a big old bead of log builder on the rim, and it's been there ever since. True story.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's funny. It's funny. Log bond more than log builder. We have all kinds of stories about what we've used it for. We fixed it's something. I mean, I've used it personally at home in my ceramic tile shower. I've literally, used it to keep shower tiles on and all kinds of things. So
we make it in white too. You don't use the white, but we do make it in white. And I had one day I got home from a trip, and in my white F-250, there was a big gash down the side because it's an aluminum one. Well, I caulked it.
There you go.
That was in 2018.
There you
Body
go.
work, auto body work.
Auto body work. And
Yeah,
it's still
yeah.
on there.
So one question I wanted to ask, Paul, is that I have a lot of people that call caulk chinking. They use them interchangeably and or use them incorrectly. Will you explain the difference between chinking and caulk?
There's not a lot of difference. The chemical makeups are very similar. However, the chinking product typically comes in colors that mimic mortar. So what you're trying to do is produce a look that's like the Appalachian style, or that they chinked with back then it was concrete or mortar or cow flop or whatever they had to put it. Our ancestors are coming across, moving west. They used just about anything they could, but mortar was the thing that they ended up with most of the time. And when you say log home to a group of 100 people, you get 100 different images. And to lots of people, especially from my part of the country, the Southeast, it's a 6x12 dovetail with about a 3 or 4 inch chink joint. So we take a caulking product and we modify it with texture to make it look similar to mortar. So, but if you've got big joints, it's usually chinking. Chinking will cover a span of 6 inch wide or tall joint, whereas caulking is made for something that's as small as a 1/4 inch and on up to about 3/4 inch. And caulking products are typically colored to match the stains or the colors of the wood, so they'll hide. Chinking is something that you want to accentuate and show and contrast. And they're all, we do both because that's what log homeowners want. Chinking is typically not quite as elastic as the caulking products. So if you've got an area that's going to move a lot, you would probably want to use a caulking material as opposed to the chinking. Now, that said, so the log builder product we have is smooth. Then the chinking product we have is fairly rough. But then we got one in the middle, it's called Conceal, that has a tiny bit of texture on it so that when you stain it, it'll hold more stain and it hides it better. So it more closely mimics the color of the wood when it's all done, all said and done with. So that's the real difference. Chemically, they're the same appearance. They're totally opposite.
Yeah. It's just interesting trying to, when talking to somebody, because if it's important to know what they're referring to, because if you send them chinking and they're expecting a smooth caulk that's going to go in a tight joint, that's not the right product.
Yeah, I've been in lots of conversations where people start talking about the chinking on their house, and I'm like, do this, do that, and they're like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And they'll explain it to me, and they're really talking about caulking.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Right.
That we see that online a lot.
Another question we get all the time is, what should you do first? Stain your logs and then caulk them, or caulk them and then stain?
Either, or I'll give you another option. With our stains, it's usually 2 coats. So the stain actually can act as a primer for the caulking or chinking material. Now, if it's chinking, you always want to stain first because, the contrast in color. You'd be painting between the lines. But with caulking, you can as long as the wood is clean and dry and sound, you can caulk first or you can stain first. You can do either one. But again, since our products are 2 coats, I prefer that when you're up there and you stain the first coat, then do the caulking, and then come back with your second coat. And that gives you the best of everything. You've got the primer for the caulk to stick to, and then you put the stain over the top of it to hide it. So that's what I prefer.
Is that for either water-based or oil-based stain?
Yes, as long as the stain is dry. With our water-based stain, today is almost 80 degrees outside. You can put another coat on as little as like 20 minutes. With the oil-based products, you're talking about 24 hours usually. And when you're building a house, you want to do it the most economical way. And so the less times around the house, the better off you are. So, and it's kind of cool, especially with the water-based product. On a nice day, you can do everything on one wall and not move your scaffolding or your ladders or anything like that. You could stain it, caulk it, stain it, and then put a clear coat over the top of it, all in a matter of a few hours when you've got the right conditions outside.
That's right. That's a good point.
Yeah, I like that too, because you're concentrating on one area. You're not moving sprayers around and other material around the job site, and you're going up and down ladders. You're not moving them. You're not, because every time you move a ladder, you're under risk of not quite putting it up quite the right way, and down you come. I hate it when I fall off a roof.
Well, one of the other things too is about caulking and chinking both. You have to tool it in.
Yes.
So, what is your favorite tool when you're applying chinking or caulking? What's your favorite tool to use to tool it in?
The one that's in somebody's hand that I'm watching.
Sounds about right.
I'm a salesman, and I'm not as good as I used to be. But of course, caulking, if you cut the tube correctly and you know how to do it correctly, you really just don't have to touch it at all.
That's true.
With your hand. The nozzle will do that work for you, and then there's nozzles that you can buy and do other things with. But for most people that have never done it, and you decided you're gonna chink your house or caulk it, use some tape, put some blue tape on there, green, whatever, the frog tape, this tape or that tape, and then it'll come out right. So you caulk it and then you peel the tape. Because the hardest part, the way to mess up a caulking or chinking job is get caulking and chinking where it's not supposed to be.
Right.
But with tape, you can get good crisp lines. And there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, there's little bitty things like you ice a cake with. There's plastic putty knives, metal putty knives. A lot of people modify them. I'll take a metal, for chinking an Appalachian style house. It's about, a 4-inch chink joint. I'll take a 3.5-inch putty knife and I round the edges off with a grinder to be about the radius of a quarter, because I don't want that sharp edge to make a line when I make a mistake. And there's some other reasons behind it too, but I can't go into it here because it's just complicated. And then what I'll do is get the chinking on the wall and then mist it with water and then tool it out with those things. A lot of people like to mist it with water and kind of hit it with a putty knife to get it kind of where it's supposed to be, and then mist it with water again, and then use those foam brushes, and you can actually move it around a pretty good bit and get it in good contact on top and bottom so that you get a good seal, and you get it to look really very smooth. I personally don't like to have it very smooth because, it's chinking, and it's supposed to look kind of rough, so I leave some little lines and stuff in it. But that's just all a matter.
It's personal preference.
It's personal preference, and there's people that do it for you every which way. I've seen even people take tiny little sandblasters and blow larger diameter sand grains into it to make it look even rougher, like it was built in the 1700s or something like that.
We had somebody do one, and they wanted it to look like an 1800s. It was a general store actually, and they actually didn't keep it. They went over the log part also, so that it was like an uneven bottom, and
Not
it
a
looked
perfectly
really,
straight
really,
line.
really old.
Oh yeah, a lot of people spend, on those chink style houses, they spend a lot of money to make the chink lines uneven, not just straight lines.
Right, that's harder.
Yeah, it's harder. And of course, that's the way they were built.
Yeah.
The antique homes, it's a small industry, but it's very popular with people taking log homes built in the 1800s and numbering them, lettering them, whatever they do, move them halfway across the country and build them, and they're beautiful.
A lot of oak ones.
A lot of oak. Yeah, mine was our original home on our farm in Nashville, or outside of Nashville, was mainly chestnut, which chestnuts became extinct about the turn of the 19th, 20th century.
It's funny. There's a real art to caulking, and Mike Branch is probably one of the.
He was good.
He's good.
Still is
Mike
good.
is still really good, but Mike always says that the best caulkers are women.
Oh
that
yeah,
women will do the best job caulking, and the other sage advice he has is that if you're going to caulk your own house, start at the back door.
Oh yeah, closet.
People always start at the front door, and then then they get there. By the time they get to the back door, they're really, really good at it, and they've got so always start at the back door.
Yeah, and I give the advice that I give people that restore houses is I don't care what you do a good job where they go in and out of the house, because if they have to come in there every day and look at that little spot right there, they're not going to like you and they're going to be upset.
One of my pet peeves is they go to a house and they've caulked it and then they've just smeared it, and the caulk joint is like
Huge.
Like half an inch or 3/4 of an inch tall, and it doesn't need to be like that. It just needs to be where the caulk channel is, and you don't need to smear it.
Yeah, hence my use of tape. It needs to be in there, and it has to be thick enough. Again, grab hold of a little tiny rubber band and try to pull it, and grab hold of a real thick rubber band and pull it. It comes way out. So the
same principle.
The more product you can get in there and get in correctly, and it's got the 2-point adhesion, all those things, it'll move. And
well, that's what I say. You have to go back, and after the house has been up, then you go back and check a year later. because again, people will they'll swipe off too much of their caulk, and do things like that. So you go around, there can be little tears here and there. You just take a tube of caulk and go around and fix it.
No, this is not something that you built to last 3 or 4 years. You want it to last 3 or 4 generations.
Right.
And it's easy to do nowadays. You can build a house like that. You couldn't do that about 200 years ago.
Well, Paul, thanks a lot for coming here. I think we have really kind of covered the subject of how to seal between your logs and the why we use the products that we do. I think that's important for people to understand. It's not a willy-nilly decision. It's a really important decision.
No, thanks for having me. I've always enjoyed our relationship, and we've had a good time personally and professionally. Sashco's and Gaston are good partners, and between the two of us, we like to build really great log homes for people to live in for generations. If you want to find out more about Sashco, go to sashco.com. If you want to talk to me, call our customer service at Sashco, and I'm happy to help anybody. Believe it or not, I'm not a very smart man, but I answer the phone. But just give us a shot. Give us a shot. This is a great industry, and we enjoy helping folks.
Yep, and I will say thanks for being our first guest, Paul. It's been very fun. You can learn about why we design our log profiles the way we do at our website, www.oakloghome.com. And I will say I've learned some things today.
And I think that we're going to have another podcast with Paul, and we're going to talk about exterior stains and interior finishes, and continue on with some more educational content for people that are wanting to build a log home.